Hi, in this video I'm going to quickly demonstrate one of my favorite ways of loading data into SQL Server. Now this method that I'm going to show you works only if you want to load the data once, because if you want something repeatable, then the best way that you need to do it is using SQL Server integration services. However, in my case, when I'm a consultant, most of the time I get access to some sample data, and initially we start off with only a proof of concept where we're trying to demonstrate that things are possible rather than actually make a repeatable foolproof way of loading data or some ETL or extract transform load package. In this case, for example, you'll see that I'm pretending that my customer has given me two CSV files. One is called customers and the other is called orders. And I want to be able to load these two files real quick into my database so I can start querying and having a look at the data, trying to understand what exactly the requirement is. In these kind of scenarios, I don't want to go through the trouble of creating the entire package from scratch. And for that, what I typically do is I go ahead and run this script. What the script does is it goes ahead and creates a link server connection to a location on the hard disk where the CSV files are located. And then I can reference those CSV files like as if they're tables from within SQL Server. You'll find a number of different examples of this, and I want to make it very clear, do not confuse this with Polybase or any of the other features that's there in SQL 2019. This is something that's been available for a very long time. Now, this is easy to do, that's why I'm going to go ahead and show it to you real quick. Here what we're doing first is we need to go ahead and enable advanced options and then enable distributed ad hoc queries, because what this allows us to do is establish link server connections out of system. The next thing I want to do is I want to use Microsoft Office providers, OLEDB adapters, to reference or access MS Office objects like Access files, Excel files, CSV files, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and run this script, which allows me to go ahead and do that. And the next thing I want to do is through the OLEDB driver or provider that I've just gone ahead and set up, I want to go ahead and access CSV files located in a location. Now you might see on the Microsoft website, the CSV file path or the CSV file name itself is given here, because what they're trying to demonstrate there is just referencing a single CSV file. I don't want to create one link server connection for each and every CSV file, so that's why I'm doing it this way. If you look over here, I'm saying add a link server connection, and I'm referencing it using a server name called CSV_mock. And this is kind of just like a server name, a high level entry point to the path over here. Again, I'm using server product CSV files. It doesn't matter what name you give here as long as you remember it, because you'll need it later on. Again, I'm using OLEDB drivers over here, and this is the path where the CSV files are located. So that's all well and good. So when I run this, what happens is Microsoft SQL Server now creates a reference or a lookup point to the location on the hard disk where the files are located. And as you can see here, the files are now referenceable through SQL Server, even though they're sitting on the hard disk as traditional CSV files. The next thing I've done here, this is again the basic stuff that you'll do. You can start querying the data if you want to at this point, but I want to load this into SQL Server because then I can start working with the data using the T-SQL query language. So first thing, I'm creating a table in which I can load the file metadata, like the file name and the file path, etc. And then what I'm doing is I'm using xpdir tree to load the list of files into this particular table. So let me just go ahead and run this real quick. Okay, that's already there. So let me just check what we have here at this point. Select star from hash tables. Okay, so it's empty. So I need to populate this table with some data. And if you look over here, what you'll see is this table now contains a list of files that are there in the link server connection. Next, what I'm doing is I'm generating a script that will help me create a script to load the data. So it's a script creating a script. In this case, what I'll want to do is I want to go ahead and make sure that I've changed the server name here to whatever was mentioned over here. So if you use another example like maybe ABC, then that's what you want to type in here as well. At this point, when I run this, what it'll do is it'll generate the select into script that I can use to load the data into my database. You'll see here that the name of the table as per the link server connection is customers #CSV, and then I extract only the customers part of it and create a table called customers and a table called order. And when I run this, it goes ahead, reads the CSV file data and loads it into the table, or it creates a table and then loads it into the table. So at this point, I've got my data here, and that's pretty much it. So you'll see that in just a matter of few minutes, I can actually go ahead and load hundreds of thousands of files into SQL Server and then work on the data using the transact SQL language, which I'm much more comfortable with, rather than try to manipulate the data at the file system level itself. Again, a couple of things that you want to watch out for over here is you'll see that the data type for all of these is nvarchar 25. You can see that the money data type has been used here, ID. So the data types don't exactly always match what you're expecting it to be. So the idea here is, now that I've loaded it, I can always go ahead and change these data types within SQL Server, which makes it much more easier for me to work with. Again, truncation, rounding errors are possible, so you want to watch out for that as well. But when you're trying to do something real quick, just to get an idea about what the data is and what you want to do with it, this is one of the go-to methods that I use, because it helps me really get access to the data instantaneously and start working, rather than worrying about setting up and truncation and rounding and data type issues, etc., which I can always figure out once I finish loading the data. I will be putting a link for the script over here in the description of the video. Go ahead, check it out, and thank you for watching.